What if I told you that we could be seeing more Star vs. the Forces of Evil in the future? If you haven't noticed, revivals are in right now. Adventure Time, Gumball, Phineas and Ferb, regular show, the list goes on. Well, it seems like Star is on the table for something Disney could bring back. Creator Darren Nefsey recently spoke about the likelihood of Star making a comeback at MomoCon, and the answer may shock you. Despite the reputation you may believe the show has, the odds of Star and Marco making a return to our television screens is higher than you'd think. So let's talk about it. MomoCon has always been a fantastic place for animation fans to come together and have a great time just hanging out in cosplay. But it's definitely been leveling up the last few years, landing some pretty big guests. This year, Darren Nefsey was one of those guests and was on a Star vs. the Forces of Evil panel with the voice of Marco, Adam MacArthur, though the kids today may know him as Yuji Itadori. His career has been pretty crazy. This panel was also moderated by an internet homie, Aisha Ray, who you may recognize from TikTok or her YouTube videos, but before any of that, she was a pillar of the Star fandom with the Starco Shippers Instagram account, one of the biggest accounts in the fandom back then. Honestly, just as a mutual, it's been really cool to see her growth online, and I can't wait to see what her career will evolve into. At one point during the panel, while giving the audience a look at some behind-the-scenes tidbits that I find really endearing, Adam jokes that Darren should give the elaborate animation process another whirl, aka make more Star. But you know, it's one of those, it's a joke unless you're down kind of jokes, to which Nefsey says,
I would love to do it again. By the way, I do always tell Disney that I would do more Star, and I would encourage all of you, it works to bother them, because literally they have been a little bit like, oh, well, the show's still getting a lot of attention. And I'm like, yeah, guys, let's do more. Come on. So
literally blow up every Star post on their TikTok.
So yeah, a few things to unpack here. First off, if you're a Star fan who'd love to see her story continue, let Disney know that you want to see more. If they make a post on social media about Star, respectfully blow it up and let your desires be heard. As Darren says, Disney sees that stuff and they'll take notes. Social media is a big reason we're seeing a lot of these revivals. As someone who's been on TikTok since 2020, pretty much every show that's either got a new season or spinoff has always had a healthy presence on that app with viral clips and sounds. And while I don't see Star come up as often as like Phineas or Gumball, whenever it does, it's easy for that TikTok to crack 100k likes. And that goes into the next point. Star as a series is still getting attention 6 years after it ended. It's still getting good streaming numbers on Disney+. There's an entire generation of people who only consume the show all at once through Disney+. Whether they're kids on the hunt for their next binge, or adults who are finally getting around to the show after putting it on their watch list in 2015. And I'd wager a lot of those Disney Plus viewers aren't that upset at the ending. They got to watch it without hiatuses, fan theories, or shipping wars. Their viewing experience wasn't fueled by years of anticipation when it comes to the story. So when they hit Cleaved, they're probably going to be a lot softer on it compared to the fans who followed it since day one. Now don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are plenty of people who did watch for the first time with Disney Plus and found the finale extremely lackluster. I personally just rewatched the entire series, finishing it like a month or two ago because I would love to do a retrospective on it. But I'ma be real, I dreaded getting to season 4, and when I finally arrived at the final season, I was not having a good time. I actually came away viewing the finale in a much more negative light compared to when it first premiered, when I was a lot more fond of it. I was one of the few vocal enjoyers of the ending back in 2019. By the way, if you want to relive the glory days of the Star fandom, you can check out my nearly 6-hour Star compilation on Roundtable Rewind. It's full of breakdowns and deep dives that I used to do during the show's run. Definitely check it out. That said, I think a lot of grievances with the finale stem from the fact that it did not feel like a conclusive ending to Star. It failed to feel like the climax and accumulation of everything the series built up to. It just felt like an average season finale with the most egregious ending possible tacked onto it. Like sure, Star destroyed magic, which was a huge part of the show, but like, this is the second time in the series magic had been disrupted in some way. The first time being Toffee's corruption. So I imagine there would have been a way for magic to come back into the picture if the series got a 5th season or even just a movie. The weird vibe around the ending also comes from the fact that Darren Nefsey didn't want to end the show at season 4 in the first place. It's well known amongst the fandom that she kept things open-ended wanted in case they got more, which was asking for a lot back then, as Disney shows never really went past 4 seasons. Big City Greens and Phineas and Ferb have definitely broken that rule, as Disney is relying on their popular IP to keep their studio afloat. Definitely a pattern in the animation industry as a whole right now. So I guess Neffsy's sentiment aged well, but I'm still of the opinion that the series should have never ended like this. All of that said, the consensus around the show getting a revival, at least for my Twitter followers, seems to be that people are game for it as long as the show builds upon the ending of Cleve and explores the consequences of magic being destroyed alongside Earth and Muni fusing into one dimension, which is something I think the show could actually pull off pretty well based off the previous seasons. Rewatching the series, I noticed that 3 out of the 4 seasons end with Star making a decision that's well-intentioned in the moment, but ultimately is for the worse in the grand scheme of things. Rewatching the series, I noticed that 3 out of the 4 seasons end with Star making a decision that's well-intentioned in the moment, but ultimately is for the worse in the grand scheme of things. Using the Whispering Spell on the wand at the end of season 1 seemed like the best course of action to save Marco, but she just gave Toffee what he wanted by sending him into the realm of magic, which caused magic to get corrupted and be on the fritz for an entire season, while Ludo also fumbled his way into taking over the kingdom thanks to Toffee's manipulation. The only way to fix that was to kill Toffee and essentially reboot magic, which is something I feel like she could do again, by the way. Season 2's ending goes directly into season 3, so there is no major screw up from Star there. She left Earth, but that wasn't really her fault. At most, you could argue that she shouldn't have left Toffee's finger in her closet, but meh. No matter where it was, he would have recovered it and Star still would have been in danger. Season 3 concluded with Star returning the family wand to Eclipsa, returning the title of queen to her in the process, which was a good gesture and on paper was the right call given how much hell Eclipsa and her family went through. But Star more or less threw both the kingdom of Muni and Eclipsa into a very messy, very chaotic situation that absolutely backfired. And the resolution didn't resolve the core issue at hand, which was the tensions between humans and monsters. Lest we forget, Star was acting queen when she did this. And while I definitely think she deserved to enjoy the rest of her teenage years instead of dedicating her life to the throne like Moon did at her age, she was very wishy-washy when it came to helping Eclipsa transition back into the role as queen, knowing Eclipsa didn't have the same support system that literally any other queen had. It made sense Star wouldn't have been as attentive when Moon was missing, but afterwards, she was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, helping sometimes, like when the Spider Bites visited Eclipsa's castle, but most of the time it felt like she was caught up in her boring, repetitive relationship drama. It was super frustrating on rewatch because Star knew how the people of Muni felt about Eclipsa and the pre-existing tensions between humans and monsters, so her constant frustration at Eclipsa felt a little unwarranted. I don't mind Star being critical of her, it makes their dynamic more interesting, but when you watch it all at once, how fast she switches up on her feels jarring. You get the idea. Handing over the wand to Eclipsa while Moon was MIA ultimately led to Muni being in much worse shape than it was prior. It was unfortunately a bad move. Finally, Star destroying magic not only destroyed various magical entities that more or less oversaw the balance of the multiverse, but it somehow led to Earth and Muni fusing together, which not only puts Muni's own politics and government into question, but has catapulted Earth into chaos. World governments are thrown into disarray. Humans are now getting roped into the monsters versus humans conflict, likely siding with the bigoted humans. And like, does the title of queen even matter anymore? What about the president of the United States and other world leaders? What's going on? The one thing that may have made all of this easier to sort out is magic, but it's no longer a resource they have at their disposal. Maybe. Dimensions fusing feels pretty magical to me, but what do I know? Point is, Star has constantly been making mistakes and navigating through those mistakes the entire series, which is not a criticism of her character. I think it's part of what makes her endearing to watch, when she actually deals with the consequences. This may or may not be her biggest screw up yet, so unpacking that while exploring the current state of Earthny would be very interesting to see. I definitely think we'd have a time skip, even if it's a small one, like a couple of years at most. Star and Marco would likely still be in high school, so that the series remains marketable to a teen audience. I honestly would dig something like Kim Possible Season 4, another example of a season that came to fruition after its series originally ended, where Kim and Ron are seniors designers, and we have Kim driving her dope-ass car. I'd love to see Star and Marco have their own rides, though knowing those two, they'd probably split one that Marco financed through Tordina merch. If only because Star seems like the type to total her car a day into having it. And yes, I do think a revival should just keep Star and Marco together. I know not everyone's big on Starco, people think there are other relationships that could have been more interesting, but it was obvious they would end up together from day one, and I'd rather have the show focus its shipping on other characters than these two, because the shipping wars they put us through knocked down both of their likability. Teenagers or not, I can't blame anyone for disliking these two after how they treated Tom and Kelly. And with their worlds merged, I wouldn't be surprised if Tom and other Muni characters enrolled at Echo Creek. But what I'd really like to see is either Star adapting without magic or finding a way to bring magic back throughout this hypothetical 5th season. I think without magic, this series would lean more into sci-fi elements, which were already sprinkled throughout the first 4 seasons, at least aesthetically. Imagine Star having a tech-based wand that emulates magic, or in her pursuit to bring back magic, she ends up winning some kind of ancient wand that was forged on Earth. I know we saw Glossaryck create the first wand in Meteor's Lesson, but you know, that was the first wand on Muni. Nothing says there couldn't have been another wand beforehand. Finally, a revival has a chance to give us a much better villain to end on than Mina Loveberry. I still think it's insane that the Book of Spells, releasing long before season 4, set up a villain that we never even had acknowledged in the show. Toffee's master, Cephas of Tarsus. He just felt like a perfect villain to bring things full circle. In terms of antagonist, this show peaked at Toffee, and his arc still feels incomplete. His defeat was rather anticlimactic, which felt acceptable at the time because a lot of people assumed he was going to come back. So finally reintroducing him and focusing on the man who molded him feels like much needed course correction. And I'll be real, these two villains would probably get people excited about the show again. Villains have always gone a long way in keeping people invested in these lore-heavy cartoons. Overall, like most shows I covered extensively on this channel, I'd love to see more Star in the world. And given how Disney seems to be turning their back on their newer cartoons in favor of revisiting older IP, I really don't think it'd be too far-fetched to see a new project announced in the next couple of years. Especially if the new Phineas and Ferb ends up being a hit, which it's definitely shaping up to be. At least give us a movie, you know? But as always, these are just my thoughts and I'd love to hear yours. Do you want to see more Star? Why or why not? Let us know in the comments down below and keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Instagram at AllShrekVox and at Roundtable Vids. Shout out to Art with Coda for the dope ass thumbnail. He always does an amazing job. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Roundtable with notifications on so you never miss a video. Thank you for watching and I hope you have an awesome day. Peace!